Thank you for coming back to my video. I wish you a happy video and good health. Jack knelt down in the middle of the hospital corridor, his eyes red as he looked at the cold emergency room door. Tu Tien, the girl he loved, was lying inside, fighting a sudden and intense pain. What happened? Why was she suddenly hospitalized? And why was the doctor speechless when he held the results in his hand? An unexpected incident, a love facing a cruel challenge. Don't look away, the truth will leave you speechless. That afternoon, the pale sunlight gently shone on the wet yard after the previous night's rain. Tu Tien was sitting by the well washing clothes, her hands quickly wringing each shirt that still smelled of soap. The wooden basin glistened with water, reflecting the cloudy sky. The air was peaceful, with only the sound of running water and the wind rustling through the areca trees. Suddenly, a sharp pain spread from her lower abdomen, causing Tu Tien to stop, her hand dropping the half-wrung shirt. At first it was just a slight sting, but after a few minutes, the pain surged like waves, causing her to bend over, her hands gripping the edge of the basin, sweat pouring down her forehead. She tried to stand up, but her legs trembled, and she collapsed onto the cold ground. In a panic, Tu Tien fumbled for her phone in her pocket, her hands shaking as she dialed Jack's number. When he picked up, she could only mumble a few words. "Jack, my stomach hurts. I can't stand up." Then her voice trailed off. Without a second's hesitation, Jack, who was at the village entrance, rushed over, calling her repeatedly as he drove to keep her awake. When he got there, he saw her leaning against the wall of the well, her face pale, sweat dripping down her forehead. Without saying much, Jack picked her up and ran to the car. The road to the district clinic was quite far, and the village road was muddy due to the rain last night. But Jack didn't care. He just knew he had to get her there as fast as possible. On the way, he kept asking while driving, "Can you hear me? Don't sleep. We're almost there." His eyes were panicked, completely different from his usual calmness. Tu Tien gently held his hand, trying to smile but couldn't hide the pain. She felt the warmth from his hand, the sincere worry without any pretense. Arriving at the clinic, Jack rushed in to call the doctor, his eyes red. When the door closed, he sat outside, covering his face, his heart pounding as if he had just run a long distance. For him, each moment felt like a lifetime. In the white hospital room filled with the smell of antiseptic, Tu Tien lay quietly on the bed, her face pale under the cold fluorescent light. The doctor was administering IV fluids while recording the initial test results. Jack stood beside her, his hands clasped tightly together, his eyes following the doctor's every move as if afraid of missing anything. He had faced life and death situations on long business trips, but he had never felt as helpless as he did now, when the girl he loved was lying in front of him, so weak and fragile. After a while of examination, the doctor gently removed his mask, his voice gentle. "She is in pain due to endocrine disorders related to polycystic ovary syndrome. Luckily we got her in time. Otherwise it could have been more serious." Jack nodded repeatedly, then quickly asked, "Is she okay? Does she need surgery? Will it affect her ability to have children?" The doctor looked at him, somewhat touched by the young man's panic, then replied, "It's not dangerous right now. But she needs long-term treatment and especially needs to keep her mind stable. If she is well taken care of, there is still hope." When the doctor left, Jack sat down by the bed, gently holding Tu Tien's hand. She opened her eyes, weakly looking at him, her eyelashes wet with sweat. "I'm sorry, I made you worry," she said softly. Jack shook his head, leaned closer, his eyes gentle but filled with determination. "Don't apologize. You are everything to me. No matter how long it takes. No matter what happens, I will always be here." Tu Tien looked at him, her eyes filled with tears. The fears of illness, of the future, suddenly seemed to be soothed by Jack's silent but persistent presence. She didn't know what the road ahead would be, but in that moment, when their fingers intertwined tightly, she knew she was no longer alone. When Jack called his mother to tell her that Tu Tien was in the hospital, his voice was choked with worry and panic. On the other end of the line, Jack's mother was stunned. Even though she was half a world away, She could still feel the seriousness in her son's every word. What happened to Tu Tien? Is it serious? Are you with her? She asked repeatedly, her heart suddenly sinking with worry. Although they were not related by blood, Jack's mother always had a special affection for Tu Tien, a gentle, intelligent and strong-willed girl who she believed was the only one who could change her son. Without hesitation, she called her friend Uncle Hong to take her to the district hospital where Tu Tien was being treated. She arrived late in the afternoon, when the last sunlight of the day shone into the long, dark corridor of the hospital. Seeing Jack sitting absent-mindedly outside the hospital room door, she quickly walked over and squeezed his hand. "I want to see her," she said. When she entered the room and saw Tu Tien lying there, her face pale but her eyes still trying to remain calm, she smiled slightly. Then sat down by the bed. Her warm hand held Tu Tien's hand. "You are a strong girl. You will get through this. And I will always be here for you too," she said slowly, with a loving gaze. Even though she did not have a biological mother, Tu Tien still felt that sincerity more clearly than any words of encouragement. The next morning, the gentle sunlight shone through the hospital window, bringing with it a cool breeze. Tu Tien was feeling better. Her face was no longer as pale as yesterday, and she could sit up and eat the thin porridge cooked by Jack's mother. She was still attentively by her side, feeding Tien porridge while telling a few small stories. The atmosphere in the hospital room suddenly felt warm like a real family. Jack stood outside the door, leaning against the wall, quietly observing. Seeing that Tien could smile, his eyes softened. He walked into the room, sat down by the bed, gently stroked her messy hair and smiled. "You're much better. Mom, stay with me for a while? I have to go to the construction site to check on the workers. I've been neglecting them for the past few days." Tu Tien nodded, gently holding his hand. "You go. Don't worry. Mom is here," she said, her eyes filled with gratitude. Jack's mother also looked at her son, nodding confidently. "You go. I'll take good care of her." Jack smiled at his mother, then leaned down to kiss Tu Tien lightly on the forehead before standing up. Before leaving, he turned back one more time, his eyes seeming to advise, "I'll be back soon. Remember to eat well, rest, and don't think too much." Tu Tien watched his figure disappear down the hospital corridor, her heart suddenly feeling strangely peaceful. Perhaps, amidst the challenges of life, having someone who always steps out into the world and then returns to her side is the happiest thing. When Jack left, the hospital room became quieter, with only the steady sound of the fan and sunlight shining through the curtains, creating long streaks of light on the tiled floor. Tu Tien lay on her side, her head resting on her arm, sighing softly. Although her body felt lighter, her mind was still filled with thoughts that could not be put into words. Polycystic ovary syndrome was still a vague worry hanging somewhere in her heart, not only about her health, but also a big question about the future, about her ability to be a mother, about the simple dream that she and Jack had whispered the night before. Jack's mother gently sat down on the edge of the bed, gently touching Tu Tien's shoulder. "Are you tired?" Tu Tien turned around, forced a smile and shook her head. "I'm much better. I think I'll be able to go home in a few days." She nodded, her eyes darkened as if she was thinking about something. After a moment of silence, she said, "I know, you worry a lot. But my child, being a mother is not just about giving birth, but also about loving, caring and sharing. If God or fate gives you a different path, then don't think you're less fortunate than anyone else. I've met many women who are stronger than men, not because they're not afraid, but because they dare to move forward." Tu Tien gently squeezed her hand, tears welling up. Those words, simple, but seemed to illuminate the darkness in her heart. Even though she and Jack's mother were different in age, but at this moment, they understood each other strangely. In the silence that followed, there was a kind of sympathy that was deeper than any words of comfort. Outside the window, a gentle breeze rustled the branches of the trees. The leaves seemed to whisper something, perhaps a wish for a new beginning, even though the journey ahead was still full of challenges.
Mẹ Giác nhẹ nhàng ngồi xuống bên mép giường, khẽ chạm vào vai của Tien, con có mệt không? Từ Diep quay sang gượng cười rồi lắc đầu. Con đỡ nhiều rồi, chắc bà hôm nữa là được về. Bà gật đầu, ánh mắt trầm lặng nhưng đang suy nghĩ điều gì. Sau một lúc im lặng bà nói, bà biết con lo lắng nhiều nhưng con là bà phải. Tử Tiên khẽ siết tay bà, nước mắt rưng rưng. Những lời đó giản dị mà như rọi sáng cả phần u tối trong tim cô. Dù cô và mẹ rất khác biệt về tuổi tác, nhưng ngay lúc này họ lại hiểu nhau đến lạ. Trong sự im lặng sau đó có một loại đồng cảm sâu sắc hơn mọi lời an ủi. Bên ngoài cửa sổ gió lạnh nhẹ lay động cành cây, những chiếc lá như đang thì thầm điều gì đó, có lẽ là lời chúc dành cho một khởi đầu.